call this meeting of the Laramie City Council to order. I'd ask you all to please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, however you feel best. You can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. City Clerk, can we please have a roll call?
Cumby.
Here.
Gabriel.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Schmeckel.
Here.
Schuster.
Here.
Somerville. Oh, I see her raising her hand from, she must have had a disconnection, so she is joining us shortly here. Pierce.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. All City Council members are present. We'll now move to the public comment on non-agenda items. Public comment on items not coming before the council. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment on non-agenda items and move to item number 5, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Schuster. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand for the screen.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. And that takes us now to item number 6, proclamations, public hearings, and notifications. We have a proclamation in recognition of the Curmudgeon Group, thanking the volunteer group for their activities this year. I'd like to turn that over to Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. Although it only says 8, I think it's more like 25 because I have a lot of spouses here and I think they probably work as hard as anybody else. So here we go. Whereas a group of 8 semi-retired gentlemen and Curmudgeon supporters known as the High Plains Curmudgeon Society approached the city of Laramie for the 13th consecutive year about community service projects and volunteering their skills, knowledge, and labor for the city of Laramie. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department developed a list of community service projects and needs that the staff would like to complete, but due to time and budget constraints, had not been completed. And whereas the High Plains Curmudgeon Society worked a minimum of 1 day each week from 9 till 4 from February through the end of May for more than 1,000 hours of volunteer community service completing the projects. And whereas the community service projects completed by the High Plains Curmudgeon Society include repairing the picnic tables used for the downtown dining area, renovate the free all-day parking signs in downtown, assisted with the reassembly of the parklet at Ivinson Avenue and 2nd Street associated with the spring cleanup at the cemetery, renovated the First Street Plaza kiosk and the bench in front of the Laramie Main Street Alliance offices. Now, therefore, we, the city of Laramie and the city of Laramie, do hereby proclaim our sincere thanks to the members of the High Plains Curmudgeon Society, Clint Phillips, Michael Markman, Lowell Bangader, oh, I'm going to get butchered up, Donald Gleaves, Donald Saltman, John Duvall, Tom Bailey, and Chip Annison for their community service and for the City of Laramie service partners and residents. In witness, therefore, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Laramie to be affixed this 21st day of June 22nd. I am Brian Schuster, speaking for Mayor Paul Weaver and the President of the City Council. And I also want to state that one of my high school teachers is on this group too. So thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. We do want to express our thanks and appreciation for those volunteer services. And if we have someone that's going to speak, let's
Todd has stood up first, and then I think we'll grab somebody.
Honorable Mayor, it's a pleasure to be here tonight with the Curmudgeon Society. For the past 6 years, I've got to do something in my career, which is work heavily with a volunteer group that provides invaluable service to the city. And this group of guys, they really don't bat an eye at anything you may ask them to do. They may even go home tired and complain to their wives about the extra work we put on them, but they always come back the next week with a smile and some fun stories, and they're just an amazing group. This year, a lot of their efforts were focused at areas of downtown, but it really did alleviate some of the stress off our Parks Division this year. And Scott Hunter and Mike Malloy really led the charge with the Curmudgeons, making sure that they had projects and the supplies that they need. But with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Clint Phillips to say a few words, and then we'll finish up the proceedings tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I want to give you thanks. All of us here get to say we live in Laramie, Wyoming. That's our home. But once you get to be about 65 or 70 and you retire, you don't have a job here. You don't have kids here. You don't have any reason to stay in Laramie other than you like it. And all of the curmudgeons are here because we elected to stay in Laramie after we retired because we love it. And that's important. I probably don't have any greater incentive to do something for this city than to receive a phone call from one of my kids that says, "Dad, we're coming home for a week." Coming home. This is still home to my kids. And I think probably all of the curmudgeons feel the same way. So not only do we get an opportunity to work on our home, we really appreciate what the city does to keep this a place that we elect to stay. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. That's very well said indeed. I think part of the reason Laramie's a good place to live is because it's got a real commitment to community spirit, which includes volunteerism. And I can't think of a better organization than the Curmudgeons that exemplify that and contribute to Laramie being a good place to live and to stay and to come back to. And so we thank you. I think there are probably some other council members that would like to make comments, but let me say that as an expression of our thanks, and I think you put it very well. Councilmember Authority.
I wanted to say thank you, but also that I'm sorry for the loss of Jerry, who I know was one of your buddies. So my heart goes out to you. We love Jerry too, but you were working with him shoulder to shoulder. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, once again, on behalf of the council and frankly the community as a whole, we do appreciate everything that you do and have done and will continue to do. Thank you. Just an outstanding example of that community commitment and commitment to volunteer service that makes Laramie a great place. All right. Although I don't like to do it, we will move on to the next part of our agenda this evening. And I believe we have announcements, or at least monthly staff recognition. City Manager.
Good evening, Council. We do not have, as far as I know, any announcements, but We do have a staff recognition this evening. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Eric Zelmer. He's a utility maintenance crew leader and unfortunately could not be with us tonight, but he was nominated by his collection supervisor in that division, Gary Sanchez. He started with us in 2014, so we've been fortunate to have Eric Zelmer with us for a number of years now. And his day starts typically as a crew leader with sort of defining the course of work for his crew, figuring out what sewer lines they'll be washing, answering emails as they come in throughout the day, and serving customers. He says that's one of his favorite things, actually, working for the city, is that he likes helping people to kind of clear up their issues before they become more serious. I would like to share with you, Council, that one of the things that Eric was very complimentary of and looking forward to and excited about was the receipt of some new equipment in the sewer division. As you know, because you authorized those purchases, we are purchasing some new camera equipment as well as a new Vector truck. And those things are not cheap, but those pieces of equipment are really fantastic and help staff to do their job better. And so Eric says he's super excited about the pending delivery, but a little disappointed that they're running late due to those supply chain and delivery issues that we've been experiencing. And then this just made me laugh. He gets very solemn and shakes his head in his interview and says, one of his disappointments is the flushable products that go into our sewer system that in fact are not actually flushable, no matter what the manufacturer says. And he talked about a recent experience where we had two 50-gallon bags of waste that had to be removed from the wastewater plant's pump system. So, yeah, these things actually happen. So this is a reminder on behalf of Mr. Zelmer that don't flush it, even if it says you can, because they're not telling you the truth. Anyway, he has been here in Laramie for many, many years. We're fortunate to have him. And a coworker who nominated him added at the end that he just is so appreciative of how knowledgeable Eric is. And how over the past few months he's just become such a stand-up leader in the department, and that is the reason he was nominated to be our Employee of the Month, or Rock Star of the Month, as we like to say around here. So many thanks to Eric Zelmer, our utility maintenance crew leader.
Thank you very much, City Manager. And as we always say, it's really great for us to get these profiles on some of our city employees that otherwise we wouldn't have an opportunity for. And I'll point out that the city employee managed to work an announcement into his staff recognition about the need to be careful about what we put into the city's wastewater system. Unfortunately, we've had more than a few of those, and our wastewater and sewer crews have to deal with that stuff, and they do it with a smile, and they come back to work the next day smiling. But so anyway, we really appreciate this opportunity, and please pass on our thanks and our also our interest in hearing more about our employees, like we do through these monthly recognitions. It's nice for us. So thank you, Eric, and congratulations. Well-deserved recognition. All right, so that's going to take us to item number 7 now, which is disclosures by city council members. Are there any city council members that wish to make any disclosures about any of the items coming before us on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 8. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Harrington by just a skosh. City Clerk, do we have a roll call vote?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 no's, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk and Council. That item has been approved. That'll take us now to Item number 10, the opening of the regular agenda, and immediately to item number 11, and that's Councilmember Harrington. Councilmember Harrington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to award the bid for the North Side Tank and Transmission Lines project to Simon Contractors, Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $18,148,590.84, along with a contingency of $1,814,859.08, for a total amount not to exceed $19,963,449.92, and amend the fiscal year 2022 water fund budget accordingly, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Second.
Second by the vice mayor. A lot of people on top of the seconds. Very close tonight. Very difficult to determine who has seconded the item. Mr. Webb, welcome back.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Northside Tank and Transmission Line project is probably the most talked about project we've had in the last few years, especially in the last few months. We've discussed it a lot through the budget process, the grant and loan process, and I'm very excited we are where we are. The 2015 Water Master Plan identified this project as critical to Laramie's current and future water needs. It's been number one on our priority list for a long, long time. In April 2016, City Council approved the design for the project to Dow Engineer here in Laramie. We went out to bid, and bids were received on April 26th. Simon's contractor was the low bidder. We had 3 bids, and amazingly, at 18.1 million, all 3 bidders were within 3% of each other. We thought that was pretty amazing, and we think that means that the contractors really sharpened their pencils to get where they were, and as close as they were. Staff received concurrence from both funding agencies, the Wyoming Water Development Office and the Office of State Lands and Investment State Revolving Fund staff. Dow reviewed the bids as received and provided a bid recommendation for Simon. With all that, staff recommends bid award to Simon Contractors for Northside Tank project.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Do we have any questions on the project? It's one that we've heard a lot about. There's a lot of pieces and components to it. Long time on the books. As Mr. Webb noted, it's a priority project. See no council questions. We'll see if there's public comment on the item. No public comment on the item. We'll close the public comment. Council, further discussion before we call for a vote? City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on the item?
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Cumbie,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Council. That item carries. It takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is item number 12, Councilmember Authority.
Sorry, I got too many windows open.
It's okay.
I move to approve an amendment to the citywide utility survey project professional services agreement with IMEG Corporation, formerly Northline GIS, to map all city curb stops and meter pits in the amount of $319,340.00, plus a contingency of $31,934.00, for a total amendment amount not to exceed $351,274.00, and amend the budget project accordingly and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
A motion and second from the vice mayor, and Councilmember Authority.
I have a question if it's formally North Line or formerly, because it says formal. So is North Line GIS the parent company of IMEG?
We'll defer to the city engineer. Welcome, Mr. Job. Clear that up for us before we move into the rest of it.
IMG was formerly Northline, so I apologize for that.
So the motion should reflect formerly. And sorry, Councilor Doherty, you were muted there when you were speaking, but
Yes, so I'd like to change the word formally to formerly. Thank you.
The I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. Mr. Job, city engineer, welcome back. Do you want to tell us about this project?
Yes. So for the last few years, we've been working with IMG, formerly Northline, to survey and map out the city water and sewer mains. This project's coming to a close soon, but it has been determined that it'll be beneficial to map out the city meter pits and curb stops. The original project only mapped out the mains, not any services. Having this data will help the city as we look to the future, but also help with current maintenance. For example, having a meter pit or curb stop mapped out will help out when utilities fast to locate, say one of these items in the middle of a blizzard when there's a foot of snow on the ground. So because of the number of points that need to be surveyed and mapped, it'll take about 2 years to complete this project. With that, I can answer any questions you have on it.
Thank you, city engineer. Any questions for Mr. Job on the project? Mr. Jeff, what's a meter pit?
So a meter pit is something that is put after the curb stop. So that's actually where we meter the water that flows into through the service line and how we handle billing and everything else. So there's a device in there that measures the flow of water.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's see if we have any public comment on this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Back to you, council, for questions for the city engineer on this wide-ranging project with a lot of scope that's coming as he's informed us towards its completion, which I guess, city engineer, we should be glad about. We're moving towards the end of this project. It's been a big one. On paper, it might not seem as significant as it truly is, which is really a thorough and detailed mapping of basically all those points of information about the entirety of the city's utility system. Not a small thing, I think it's fair to say. Seeing no questions, we'll go to the city clerk for the roll call on the item.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
And that motion carries. Thank you, city clerk. Thank you, council. Let's go now to the next item on our agenda. Item number 13. And we'll recognize Councilmember Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. The title is Operational Agreement between the City of Laramie and Albany County Fire District. Number 1, item number 13. I move to approve the operational agreement between the City of Laramie, Albany County Fire District Number 1, beginning July 1st of 2022, and the amount of $121,000, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion and a second from the vice mayor. Thank you, Chief Johnson. Welcome back.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, a little background on this item. This is an annual agreement we've had, goes back for many decades, where we assist Albany County Fire District Number 1 with fire suppression in their area. Their area covers pretty much all lands south of Rock River to the state line, and then east to west county borders. So there's a few changes to the agreement. Typically, this agreement will roll over without going before the governing bodies if there's no changes. Since there's some changes, you have it before you this year. Some of the changes that were happening is back in 19, we went away from being responding first out on wildland fires in the area. They were trying to, the personnel were trying to cover that on their own. We run into some situations where it was evident that the Laramie Fire Department should go ahead and respond on initial pages to wildland fires within the area. That changed the compensation. We had dropped from the 121 down to 90. We're going back up to 121,000. So those are those changes there. The agreement really covers operation, maintenance, cooperation, ownership, and suppression. And under operations, we've added some terminology in, and it's really for the firefighters to give them some benchmarks to go by, and then to working together with different agencies. We just have nailed down the authority having jurisdiction and how those commands get transferred and how basically how calls get terminated out in not in our area. So that's the benchmarks we added were life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation. They're really standard benchmarks in fire suppression. Clarification of payment language. There's really no changes in it. It was just clarified a little bit. Insurance limits were added, and it was under the use of water on a city hydrant for something that was close. So we moved that into just its own insurance category because it was really kind of out of place there. Mutual indemnification, and then some standard template language for contracts in the state of Wyoming. I stand for any questions on this agreement.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it very much. Questions? Chief, if I can, I'd like to ask you a question that's peripheral to this, but I think pretty closely related because you touched on it earlier, and that is about the wildfire response issues. Can you give us, because I think it's related to the importance of this agreement, a little bit of your view about what we might be contending with this summer and what you're hearing and how your department is preparing for what seems to be on a pretty regular basis, challenging fire seasons every summer here through the fall. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Honorable Mayor, yes, we do an annual training and refresher training in the wildland arena. Typically, we have an urban interface here in Laramie that we deal with, but we do get people out to other events. So bigger events, because we've had some pretty big events within our county, just really locally here. So, so in preparation, there's obviously classroom work, recertification work, refresher, and then the guys do get out and where they can work on other fires outside of this area. So my expectations are, it seems to be dry year coming up again, lots of winds. We'll be ready to respond. So I think I'm not in the prediction business, but we will be ready to respond to those. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, Chief. And I didn't want you to be put on the spot to make a prediction. I wanted you to do what you just did, which is to give us an if then what type of situation and how we're getting prepared. And I think sadly it's just one of those things that everybody in our community in Laramie and living out in the county is always thinking about now as we get into the summer seasons. And as you said, dry year, always plenty of wind up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we think about. So I
yes.
appreciate what you shared with us. Why don't we see if there's a public comment on this item? Council, there doesn't appear to be public comment on this item. I'll go back to you for questions on this. I'd like to say a thanks to the members that worked with the county commissioners on the overhaul of the agreement that was referenced in the presentation. Appreciate that time. It was high time, and I know it was a detailed discussion, and we appreciate your work on it. We appreciate the work of the commissioners as well, and all of our partners at the county on bringing forward the new agreement. City Clerk, may we have a roll call vote?
Cumbie,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
And that motion carries. Thank you, Chief Johnson. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Council. Move on to the next item. This is item number 15. Councilmember Somerville, please. No?
Should be 14.
Item number 14. Thank you very much. Got the screen with the council members on it, strategically positioned over the agenda. So we'll go to item number 14 with apologies. And I will go to Vice Mayor Pierce with apologies.
No worries. Thank you. I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Laramie, Wyoming and the Board of Commissioners for the County of Albany, Wyoming for ambulance service effective from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023 in the amount of $225,000 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Schuster that time. Again, close. Welcome back, Chief Johnson. Talk to us about this.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, we began working on a formal agreement with the county for providing ambulance service throughout all of Albany County in fall of last year. If you recall, it was April 5th of this year, we signed our first agreement that detailed out our response into the county for EMS. It does come with a fiscal component. The first agreement that we did, we tried to entail like 2.5 years of service, but in deference to the county, they were wanting to split that agreement up into 3 separate ones so they could vigorously apply for grants and then they wouldn't be supplanting budget-wise. So we agreed to split it up into 3 agreements. The April 5th agreement covered the period of time from January 1st to June 30th of this year, and that was for $112,500. The agreement before you tonight is the exact same agreement. It just resets the dates and start July 1st of this year through June 30th of next year, and it sets the fee for a full year, not a half year, for a full year at $225,000. And then we are prepared then to bring it back again next June for another year under this agreement. And then hopefully after that time, we'll be transitioning into a pro forma model, a profit loss model, so we can work with percentages. So that being said, I stand for questions.
Questions for Chief Johnson? Let's see if there's public comment on the item. Seeing none, we'll go back to the council and recognize Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment. It was great working with our fire chief, on this issue, and also really great working with the county commissioners. It's kind of a big deal because this is, when we approved everything for the 6 months previous to this, but this is the first time we're getting a little return on our investment, when we work out in the county. So that is a really big deal, and that spirit of cooperation is very much appreciated. So we thank the county for participating, and we're really pleased on the city end to kind of share some of the costs. We've got a couple other partners in town that we work with, and one that we would really like to work with too. So we will continue, down this path of these cooperative efforts. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pierce. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. The Vice Mayor covered, I think, one of the most important parts which is the conversations that are going to need to take place in the future with additional partners. As the statewide continues to struggle funding ambulance service across the spectrum, it really does take a village to make this stuff work. And I think our message needs to be we have a strong service, we want to keep it going, and we want to keep working with our partners. And that's going to be not just a 6-month effort, but multi-year and into the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. And again, my comments about cooperation and work on these committees, as I made on the previous item, stand probably even more so for this one. It's really better when it's a group and cooperative effort, and I think we've got a strong place to start from. Chief, I would appreciate your comments about looking forward to being able to institutionalize this as a standing local government cooperative effort. I wonder if you might speak to one little question I have, which is that as we build a partnership and going into the future years, hopefully bringing in more partners, are we able to find some efficiencies in there that are maybe making it a little bit easier for our budgets when we're able to plan out and ahead like that and count on these partnerships?
Honorable Mayor, some of the efficiencies operationally we're working on is we instituted about 2.5 years ago, I believe it was, maybe 3 now. We did what we call a civilian driver or a provisional driver program, or as part-time non-benefited, to assist with the heavy call loads. We're going to be pushing 600 transfers out of county this year, so that program really helps us out. Through the budget process this year, we're looking at bringing on 3.5 positions on the civilian side for paramedics. So we're looking at operational efficiencies with that. We'll see how we can get that blended in and working, and then I'll be able to better tell you about a future of what possibilities are with that personnel, or the supplementation of that help on that workload, what that'll do for us. So, and we are posted right now, and hopefully we'll be up and running with that by August 1st. So is the goal.
Thank you very much. That seems like a real solid example. And again, if I made you feel like I was asking to get too predictive, I apologize. I just want to try to get a question that has a lot of scope to get a better picture. I see Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. I know Chief Johnson, you've talked in the previous meetings about an average of how many calls you might have in the county. Could you refresh my memory on that?
Honorable Mayor, Councilor Gabriel, we run, let's see, about 80% of our total call load is EMS. We're going to be pushing, we're in the upper 4,000 calls. So about probably 3,800 to 4,000 are going to be EMS. Of that 3,800, you can peel off 600 or transfers, and that's out of the hospital. That leaves you with about 3,200, and 20% of those are really between 20 and 21% of those every year are county calls. So county EMS. So
great, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, and I'm surprised I remember those numbers in that detail.
Chief, we're not surprised. We're not surprised. We count on you here at the city council and the community council on your leadership of frankly really important public service. So we appreciate your being here and telling us a little bit about this. And I think it bears repeating. This is a significant step in intergovernmental cooperation, and I think it's one that's going to prove to be a really good thing over the long run, and a necessary thing over the long run for the county and the city together. And I appreciate all the comments that were made already. So with that being said, I think we're ready to have a roll call vote on the item. City Clerk.
Harrington,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes,
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
that motion carries. That item is passed. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Council. Chief Johnson, thank you. And let's see if the mayor can get it right. Council, I think we're on to item number 15 now. And that's Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2022-37, a resolution by the City of Laramie, Wyoming, approving the land lease and the sublease agreement between the city and the Laramie Building Authority for the Bath Ranch property, approving the execution and delivery of an indenture of trust between the Building Authority and Wyoming Bank and Trust, approving the execution and delivery of lease revenue bonds by the Building Authority, and other details related thereto, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
It's a motion and a second from Councilmember Cumby. We have a couple of people joining us, but I'm going to go to our Chief Operating Officer, Millie Brown, for the background.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're in the final stages of the financing for the Bath Ranch, which is set to close on June 29th. So basically, we have all the agreements, the lease back, and the indenture that has been prepared by our bond attorney, Rick Thompson. He couldn't be here tonight, but those are prepared. We've also met with the building authority. They did sign the resolution tonight. So they also had to sign the resolution so the documents can move forward. We will be closing on the 28th. We'll have the vice mayor sign most of these documents on the 28th when closing occurs. So that's really kind of the overview of what's going on. Do want to talk, kind of give Todd Bishop from Kaiser and Company what has happened with the bonding. We were working out last week. We got the bonds, and he can tell you what kind of bonds, what happened with the bonds, what were the rates and everything. And he has a little presentation to give you about the bonds. And the bonds, our trust is going to be the Bank of the Wyoming Bank and Trust is going to be our trust, who's going to be with the building authority to handle all the bonding and the payments that go to the bondholders, and making sure that the bondholders have secured payments going to them in the future through the city. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer the stuff after Todd's presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to Todd, and I think the city clerk can share the file that regarding the bonding that happened.
Thank you, Malia. Mr. Bishop, welcome back. We'll give the city clerk a second to get that ready.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor.
And it looks like we're ready to go.
Okay, very good. So this is just a brief handout that I prepared just to give you an idea of how the bond sale went and the final results. So just wanted to give you a little bit of history. On May 31st, we mailed and sent out a document. We call it a placement summary document. And this document is sent out to all of the banks in Albany County, as well as banks across the state of Wyoming. This document describes the lease revenue bonds that the Laramie Building Authority has proposed to issue. It describes the purpose, why are the bonds being issued, how will the bonds be repaid. It gives the length of time that the bonds will be outstanding. We provide them with financial information on the city as well, so they can make their own investment determination as to whether or not they'd like to actually subscribe for or bid on some of these bonds and have them as an investment within their portfolio. So this was sent out on the 31st. We asked that those subscriptions, if you will, the banks actually will fill out, and I included just a blank copy so you could look at what the banks fill out there on pages 2 and 3. So as you can see, we gave the banks the opportunity to actually write in the amounts that they would like for each of those maturities. We have found that it's helpful to provide them with some sample interest rates, but we give them that opportunity to bid at whatever rate they want. If they want to be a little bit more aggressive, they can bid at amounts that are lower, or they can bid higher if they so choose. We also try to set this up so it's not an all or none type of a situation. If we have a bank there that maybe doesn't have the ability to buy a full 8 million, but would like to participate and maybe buy 245,000 or maybe just $1 million of the entire amount, we try to accommodate them by preparing this bid form like we did. So probably not a big secret that interest rates and things in the economy have been a little bit wild, to say the least, since the first part of the year. But you know, we had the bids coming due on June 14th, which, as it turned out, was the same week that the Fed was going to be implementing one of the biggest interest rate hikes in history. What we ended up with, we did end up with 4 banks submitting bids for the bonds. That's you'll find that there on page 5. Received bids from Western States Bank, that's now First National Bank of Omaha, Wyoming Bank and Trust submitted, as well as Riverstone Bank and A&B Bank. So we received 4 bids. The part that we found frustrating was the fact that no one was comfortable bidding beyond a 5-year time frame. Given the uncertainty in the markets right now, you know, and interest rates just continuing to rise, the banks were reluctant to bid out further than that 5-year time frame. So we had to make some adjustments. So what we ended up recommending to the city was to come back and shorten the time frame to a 5-year term instead of a 10-year term. And instead of issuing $8 million in lease revenue bonds, we are looking at issuing only $6 million. So, you know, part of that reasoning is when you shorten that time frame from a 10-year to a 5-year, if you issue the same amount of debt, your annual payments are going to be quite sizable. So some additional cash into the transaction will get those annual payments from the city comparable to what it would have been over a 10-year time frame. So of those 4 bids, we ended up selecting 3 of those as having the best rates from First National Bank of Omaha, Wyoming Bank and Trust, and A&B Bank. Those were the 3 banks that provided us with the most advantageous rates, as outlined there on page 6. And then, so if you were to look at on page 7, we have our sources and uses of funds, and actually a final debt service schedule you can see there. We ended up receiving interest rates ranging from a 1.95 in the earlier years in December of 2022 out to a 3.275 on the longer end in June of 2027. So we're looking at an average interest rate of about 2.89%. It'll be fixed for the term of the financing. Given your approval of the resolution this evening, which authorizes all of the necessary documents, we're looking at having some additional documents signed. You know, approve it tonight, and we'll sign on the 28th, and then the actual closing will take place on June 29th. With that, are there any questions? I'd be happy to answer any of those over the financing presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? Appreciate the overview. Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. Hey, I was just curious, you talked about the unstable, the economy being unstable, and last week's 3/4 interest rate increase. Did that have a major effect on the way things came back? what the Fed did?
Honorable Mayor, through you, yes, I think it did affect us in that we normally on a transit. If we were to have done this transaction, say a year ago, we probably would have ended up with, possibly 6 or 7 bids. And I don't think we would have had any problem with that 10-year time frame. But what we're seeing is some reluctance to, as an investor or as a bank, to go out there and buy that bond that's going to mature 10 years from now and lock themselves into that interest rate, when in 6 months we could see interest rates move up, another 1.5%, maybe 2%. And so I think that's sort of what we were up against, is the banks just didn't want to go out that far. They felt there was just too much market risk by doing that. Didn't have a problem with the transaction as much as just the uncertainty with where interest rates are going.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Authority.
I don't know if this is the right time, and I can read this in my packet, but I thought for the public's benefit, it would be good to explain what the building authority is. I can read it on page 3 but it would be better if somebody who understands it better, I think, to have it for the public. Thanks.
So it's a request from Councilmember Authority to just give an overview of the Laramie Building Authority, which was necessitated by this. And I'm not sure, Mr. Bishop, I see you ready and waiting. So if you want to, I mean, you're not a City of Laramie official, but you're certainly welcome to participate in this discussion. Do we have anyone from City of Laramie staff that wants to provide that overview? So we're not putting Mr. Bishop in the position to do that. No, Chief Operating Officer Brown. I think that was my flag waving for you to step in.
Well, I think Todd could probably answer it, but I believe Mayor and Councilor Doherty, basically it's a funding mechanism allowed by the state statute to have be able to purchase acquire real estate and lease back to municipalities and different governmental bodies. And if you want to extend that, Todd or Bob, I'd be happy to tell you, but that's really what it is. It allows you in state statute to allow the financing with the lease back purchase.
You bet, Honorable Mayor. I would just add to what Malia had said there. The building authority is they are utilized across the state of Wyoming. Our community colleges often use building authorities to help facilitate the financing of various projects, such as dormitories or science buildings. It's really just another financing mechanism that governmental bodies have that they can utilize. And of course, the Laramie Building Authority is what we used a few years ago to acquire and renovate some of the city shops there, the former Wyotech facilities out north of town. But it's just I guess a financing tool that cities, towns, community colleges, other governments can utilize to help finance projects. I don't know if there's any other way I can put that to you.
I think that gets to it, and I think what it gets to is the fact that it's a standardized practice for local governments or local government agencies, as you mentioned, like community colleges, to put in place for the long-term financing of large projects.
Right.
Councilmember O'Doherty?
Yeah, I thought it's important to mention that it's a nonprofit public benefit corporation. That it's a nonprofit corporation. Thanks.
Right. The city isn't able to engage in a model that would be otherwise, as far as I understand. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have another question, but I have a follow-up to this one, just because I had a call from a constituent this week that had some questions about this, and the building authority always raises eyebrows But the question generally was, if we're using a separate board that has three Laramie residents on it, none of which are council members or city staff as voting members, is there any risk to the city by using a building authority that the building authority would do something that the city wouldn't agree with? I know the answer to that question, but maybe if we can just talk a little bit about that and assure the public that A, we have used this before, but B, that there's no risk with the building authority doing something I guess the city wouldn't approve of.
Right, Honorable Mayor, I'll again take a stab at that. You know, that the building authorities are formed for the benefit of the entity that they're associated with. So in this instance, the Laramie Building Authority has been formed to help facilitate the financing of needed projects for the city of Laramie. Their job is to not go out and do anything but that. They're not going to be going and issuing any other debt if it's not for the benefit of the city of Laramie.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask my second question?
Sure, and I think we should probably just touch on this fact too. Of course, there isn't an expectation that everybody understand all these sophisticated finance tools, and so it's perfectly, I think, appropriate for us to spend a little time unpacking that. So I appreciate it, Mr. Bishop, because people do have questions and they may not understand, and I certainly don't, all the nuances of these mechanisms. So it's nice to have a review on some of these things as well. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. The other question I had from a constituent is the city's cash contribution, where that cash is coming from and what effects that might have on the city.
Mayor, basically, when I started this, we were going to bond 7 million and not eight and a quarter. So we had, you know, the $1 million. It's really only $1 million, probably more than what we were thinking to begin with. The reason why I went to 8.5 was because of the North Tank, maybe, you know, or some of the projects that are going over to help with the cash flow of other projects. So basically, you know, it's $1 million over. We have the monies in our enterprise funds. I'm the one that made the decision on the 6 million based on between the cash and what we're paying in the 5 years, and I felt that was the best for the city at the time, or last week. So I'm not concerned with the other $1 million. I think I had always planned on 2 million when I started this whole process to have 2 million out of cash. That's what we're doing, is a little bit 2.2 million out of cash. So I'm not concerned. And the reason I had more than 2 million is because at the time of this whole process, I had no idea what the purchase was going to be. I had no idea at the beginning what our percent would be with the conservation fund. So I was pretty much estimating at a higher price. So I believe that the fund, cash wise, will be okay. I do feel that with the additional, it's not really this deal, but in the future is where our issues are, because all these projects are going above and beyond, and we have to figure out, you know, do we have to delay some projects? Do we have to do some things to help with our capital coming in 24, 25? That's where I see the problems lie, because of all the projects now going over the projections.
Thank you, Mayor. And Director Brown, I think that's the important message to get out. Is the question that I got was specifically, am I going to get another rate increase this month to help finance this purchase? And I think that there's been a lot of good discussion about that, but it's occurred over a long time. And that the point is, we don't have a rate increase coming today, but we have some discussions to have over the next few years.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville, and thank you, Malia, also for that. I think those are points that also need to be covered. I think it's also important to point out that the city staff, of course, came to the council well ahead of any of the execution of this with a range of possible options and tools that could be utilized. And we're operating within an authorization from the council to explore those best options and then come back to us. And that's what we've seen happen. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, if I could just add a little bit to that discussion. These bonds come with particular requirements in terms of how we're going to operate the Bath Ranch. And so as much as the shorter time span may not necessarily be good in our current economic climate or interest rates or whatever, the fact that it's actually going to be shorter gives us a few more options sooner rather than later associated with the Bath Ranch. So I think we need to keep that in mind as well. So I'm pretty sure based on the 5 to 10 year difference, but maybe Malia and City Manager could correct me if I'm misunderstanding. But I think this might actually be good to some extent for how we manage that property. So thanks for that.
Mayor and Councilor Pierce, basically because it's tax exempt bonds, we have to use it for public use. So there's no leasing the property for other people's use or whatever. It has to be for our use or to help with our operations and things like that. So yes, 5 years is going to, after 5 years, the tax exempt is off. The council can do whatever they want with the ranch. All those requirements are gone. I did have a call though, a bond call. So if we wanted to call some of the bonds, we could purchase part of the land early, and we could have done that, but you would had to, so I was going to have a call feature in 6 years, but you don't need that with 5 because it's so short. So you have a point, but I was going to have a bond call feature in case we wanted to buy some of the land and have some different use.
Thank you, Maria. I think something that needs to be, I'll hold on to that comment and make sure that there is anyone else that has a question right now. I think something that is another piece of this discussion that's important to have right now at this meeting is that rather than looking at a way for utility rate paying to be the method through which we relied on to finance this complicated acquisition. In fact, the city staff and the council took an approach where we looked at ways we could in fact avoid that. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at the setup we have now. Now, we can't speak to years and years ahead, but for the time being, to get this important transaction completed in a way that the city could manage and that frankly our residents could manage, we opted for the method we're using now. So in fact, to avoid relying on the rate structure as the way that we were going to finance this is the direction that the city went. And that can't be, I don't think, emphasized enough here. I'd like to make one other point, which is that securing water for future growth is an increasingly important challenge for cities in the West to be prepared for. And I don't think I need to explain that any further. It's not in great abundance in a lot of communities in the West, and certainly not in ours. So those things that we can do to plan for future growth around access to water, which is frankly critical to anything else we're going to do, is what has driven the council and the staff's planning and thought process throughout this. And I do think that that's worth saying, and this is the time to say it. Let's see if there's public comment on this topic, and then we'll come back and see if there's any further council questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll close that and we'll go back to the council. And I'm going to call on Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk on it, and everybody knows that between the monolith and the bath, and they sit next to each other, and one actually kind of wraps around the other one, that that Wyotech's very interested in teaching ag-related stuff. So we've already taken a piece of equipment out there to clean all the irrigation ditches out just at no cost, just because water rights are so important that we kind of decided we'd kind of jump ahead of this thing and help out the best we can, because like we said, anybody that's been on the Monolith Ranch knows that we want to do a teaching situation with something like this. So I think it's great what we're doing. Our water rights are going to be secured and be able to show everything that's happening. And so it's been fun to go out there and look at it already. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Schuster. Councilmember Harrington, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank the staff, Mr. Bishop, and you know, and I suppose the building authority as well, and you all. I think this is a if I intend to support this. I think this is one of those things that we all will be proud of for years to come. I think any opportunity for us to expand the portfolio for future generations for clean, drinkable water in our community is well worth doing. So I just wanted to express a thank you to you all, staff, etc. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Harrington. City Manager Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, if I could just piggyback on Councilmember Harrington's comment and extend my appreciation to our Chief Operating Officer, Malia Brown. Working with Todd and other professionals, she's really done a lot of work to make this project come to fruition in terms of the execution of the financing. Tremendous amount of work, more than I can even tell you. So thank you, Malia, and I agree with you, Councilor Harrington. I think this is one of those projects that I think all of you on council will be proud of. I think future generations will be proud of it, and Malia Brown's work and name will be written all over it as well. So thank you, Malia.
Thank you, City Manager Jordan. I think we all agree with that. And it probably can't be said enough because it was complicated. And we were, Malia, we recognize that you were balancing a number of competing concerns, the ability to move forward with the project in a way to do it which was feasible for the city and that did not place a huge burden on our local government finances and our local residents. Those are the things that we were juggling to make this happen, and it wasn't easy to do. So we appreciate it greatly, and I think it's going to be more appreciated in the years down the road when the city, in fact, does have access to water resources that we didn't 6 months ago and that a year ago. And we're probably going to need to be able to rely on those if we're going to have a viable city moving forward. We're talking about water. We're talking about water in a Western community, and if you've looked recently, that isn't a small concern. So Malia, it's a well-deserved thanks, and it deserves a lot more. Questions? Yes, thank you. Questions, further comments? I saw some people popping up hands and popping them down, and I think it was simply just to concur with these comments that are being made now. And you deserve to be recognized because I think this was tricky, and you found a very good way to do it and still allow us to move forward with the project. And Mr. Bishop, we appreciate your assistance. You're welcome, Malia, absolutely. Mr. Bishop, we appreciate your assistance very much and your willingness to be here and talk about some of the technical aspects of this. It's not the everyday city government move. So it's good to expand on and make all that information as available to folks as we can so they understand.
Absolutely.
The residents of the city understand what's being done and how we're doing it and why we're doing it that way. So thanks to you as well.
Thank you.
I think we're probably, council, are we prepared for the vote on this item? City Clerk, can we have the roll call vote?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thanks, clerk and council. That's a few moments, a few minutes of council time, and probably a move that's going to exceed all of our lifetimes in terms of its importance to the city of Laramie. We will now move to item number 16. I'm going to call on Councilmember Cumby for the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County and Prosecuting Attorney's Office and the City of Laramie, Wyoming, for victim witness services. Authorize an expenditure of $25,000 pursuant to the Memorandum of Understanding and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
So motion and a second from the vice mayor. And I see that we have got the director of the program, Ms. Johnson, here with us. And so we'll just turn it over to you for the background that you'd like to give us on this item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for this opportunity. So our program is housed within the county attorney's office. And we serve Albany County, and we contract with the city to serve all victims and witnesses of crime within the municipality as well. Our program existed previously as a nonprofit, was moved into the more appropriate governmental umbrella back in 2015. I joined the program in 2018. We've seen quite a bit of growth and also restriction in our program over the years just due to grant dollars. So we're looking at revising this MOU. We did a couple years ago revise this MOU to increase the contribution from the city to support the victim services that we provide. We have requested again an adjustment to this MOU just based on the current federal fiscal climate and the reductions that we've seen in our state for the types of services that we provide. We certainly don't expect this to be a continued decline. There are some wonderful fixes that have happened at the federal level to fix some of the funds moving into these really important programs, the VOCA fund, the VAWA fund. These are things that support programs like ours throughout the United States. So we do expect this to rebound, but of course we are seeing a real down cycle over the last approximately 4 years. We've seen some changes. So right now we're on a bit of a shoestring budget. So the money that we're requesting really just goes to support the bare minimum, the staff with this program, and just a bit of rent expenses that we experience for the location that we have. We're not able to be housed in the main courthouse just due to space issues. So our program is something that is statutorily required. The services that we provide are statutorily required. We offer services to victims of crimes throughout the municipality and the county, Albany County, and really serve individuals from some of our lowest level crimes. I was talking to an individual today from the municipality who experienced damage to her vehicle. It was an individual who had struck her vehicle and there was a lot of damage, and now we're in the process of assisting her and requesting restitution. We're moving forward to sentencing and a restitution hearing. So those are the kinds of services that we provide. We're really a liaison. We're a support to victims in our community. We help them to access services, to seek emergency financial assistance when they need it, to offer resources such as counseling services and other things that they may not have access to otherwise. And of course, the work that we provide, the services that we provide, we hope that nobody needs to access our services, but we recognize that unfortunately it's necessary. And we do have individuals in our community that will experience a crime. And so we hope to be there with them as they move through that criminal justice process.
Thank you very much. And I want to also thank you for the detailed background that you provided us in the council materials for tonight that covered some of those same things as well. Go to Councilmember Somerville for question.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Johnson, for being here. I think that you run an incredibly important program for the community. And personally, I'll support this, but I did have a couple of quick questions. As I was reading through the packet, I wasn't clear if this request to the city, because you talked about the legislation and the reasons of why the state's awards were reduced and that they passed that on to you guys, and that they did pass a legislative fix in 2021, and that you're expecting to see a rebound of dollars to your organization. So can you clarify if you think that this is like a short-term need for the next year or two while that rebound takes place, or if you're seeing this as a longer-term level of funding for the city?
I do thank you for that question. I do believe that we see this as a longer term support from the city. I don't know that we will be requesting an increase from this for quite some time. We have been in a really stagnant position as a program for the last few years. We've had to reduce our program. So we're no longer providing really vital services to victims such as emergency funds. Our staff haven't received raises in years. So the county is currently working on supporting that as well. But we're really asking for this assistance from the city, not only to maintain the services that we provide right now, but hopefully in future, as we do start to see some of these dollars come back into these larger funds. We don't know what that means specifically for our program. But we do hope that that will mean that we can start to rebuild some of the supportive services that we've seen in the past.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The only other thought that I had is, as Albany, I'm sure as well as Albany County, the city of Laramie doesn't always have a lot of cash laying around, but we are always looking at ways that we can help. And maybe it's space, maybe it's additional support for grants or helping to bridge some gaps in the future. I'm certainly willing to try to work on that in the future to try to bolster your program. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. Ms. Johnson, thank you for your presentation tonight. I haven't personally been involved in the program, but I know several people who have, and it's one of those situations where, you know, a lot of times they just don't know what to do. And your program is so valuable in that you direct them, and it can be devastating to these people involved. And so I really appreciate what your program is doing, and certainly support the request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Ms. Johnson? Why don't we see if there's public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Go back to Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies. Just a quick question for the city manager. I know that this was part of our community partners many years ago, and then we moved them out of that application process. In terms of moving forward, would this 25,000 still kind of come under that umbrella, under the MOUs that we have kind of stacked up with the airports? And I know those are a little bit different, but I think traditionally we've still included it under that 5-cent penny funding. Is that correct?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Council Somerville, that is correct. This program was moved under a separate MOU a number of years ago, just sort of recognizing the partnership with the county attorney's office and the importance of the program. But yes, the traditional source of these funds has been from our optional local 1 penny tax, which we refer to as the 5th cent. Did I answer all of your question?
City manager, you did, and I guess I would just, Mayor, take the opportunity to once again stress the importance of the 5th penny tax for our community, because it allows us to support programs like this.
Absolutely. I think that's appropriate, and of course to thank the residents of Laramie for their continued support of that important revenue over the last 40 years. These are the kinds of programs that revenue becomes institutionalized in, programs that are widely recognized as incredibly important, like the Victim Witness Program and Crime Victim Services. And certainly it is recognized as an incredibly important program, and I intend to support this as well. Other comments? City Clerk, we have City Manager, I see you still have your hand up. Was that in response? Go ahead.
No comment, Mayor, but I just did want to point out, I noticed the county attorney is one of our attendees. I didn't know if he wanted to add anything, and I wasn't certain if the county clerk, or excuse me, if the city clerk or you knew the county attorney was with us this evening.
City Manager, I appreciate that. I did see the county attorney there, but he did not indicate earlier that he wanted to speak. But sir, you're welcome to add to this, and it might be important for us to hear your perspective.
Thank you. I was really here to support Ms. Johnson. I mean, she runs a great program. It does a great service for Albany County and the city of Laramie. We really appreciate you all taking this into consideration. I'm sure it's in the packet, but I believe, and Ms. Johnson can correct me if I'm wrong, we received cuts of 10% last year and I think 20 this year. So the cuts have been quite substantial. The hope is that the federal government will renew these grants and make them what they once were. But right now we just don't have it. And I don't know how either prosecutor's office, that being the city attorney or the county attorney, could do its job without what Ms. Johnson and her staff do. They're just amazing people. And I want to thank you all again for taking the time to consider this.
Thank you, and we appreciate your attendance and your comments there to help us think about the program and understand what we're looking at here. So thank you. And City Attorney, I see that you've raised your hand as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to echo what the county attorney just said. We could not do our job without the good services of the Victim Witness Program. We don't have the capability or the manpower to do the complicated things that they do, and we have full confidence in them. When we have a victim that has monetary loss, that program, they're great. They handle it, and we could not. So I really appreciate their work, and we couldn't do our job without it.
Thank you, City Attorney. I think we've heard a resounding message from the County Attorney's Office and the City Attorney's Office about the importance of this program. And City Manager, I appreciate the providing an opportunity for the County Attorney to talk to us for just a moment. Council, I sense that we're ready for a vote on the item. City Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
That motion carries. And Ms. Johnson, thank you for being here and for your overview and for your details that you provided us in the materials. Thank you again. That takes us now to item number 17 on our agenda. I'm going to call on Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve first reading of original ordinance number 2046, approving the non-exclusive franchise agreement for internet services between the City of Laramie, Wyoming and Visionary Broadband LLC.
Second.
Motion and a second from the Vice Mayor. I see we have City Engineer with us. Welcome back.
Thank you. Visionary has been providing internet access since 1994 in Colorado, Montana, and Wyoming, and is currently serving more than 20,000 customers. They are already providing some fiber here in Laramie, but can expand that service to more of Laramie through a franchise utility. And it is staff's recommendation to approve this ordinance. With that, I can answer any questions you may have on this item. And there also is a representative Visionary here as well to answer any questions that may come up.
Thank you. Council? Questions? City Clerk, I wonder if we might let the attendee in for comment regarding the franchise agreement. I believe it's Ms. McDonald. Welcome, Ms. McDonald. If there's anything you'd like to add, please feel welcome to do so. Can't hear you. There we go.
Somebody had to do it. It was going to be me. Sorry. Thank you for having me. I don't really have much to add. Eric did a nice job. We've been working on this. As you know, we've just been increasing our network in Laramie significantly through our wireless, and it's time to move to fiber and just really get that going. But we anticipate doing some work with schools, businesses, and then residential. So fiber to the home is coming. So it's very exciting.
Appreciate that. Absolutely. And I'd ask you to just stay with us in case there's a question you might be able to answer. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick questions since we have you here, Ms. McDonald. Could you talk about whether you guys participate? I think there's a federal program that applies like a $30 credit to folks' bill or something along those lines for low income folks, or do you have any other programs for low income households to access?
We are a member of the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP, and so people can go through the site for ACP and register, and they'll qualify them through that program, and then they get $30 off their bill.
Great, thank you. And Mayor, I have a second question, if I can. Could you just talk a little bit about where you guys are at in terms of deployment of the fiber in Laramie, and remind us what your expected rollout? I think it's been a few months since you guys have been in front of council.
It's been a little while, and I don't think we haven't been in front of you on the fiber, mostly just on the wireless. But again, we don't like to differentiate much, because we know at the end of the day, most people just want to have better connectivity, and for some people that means wireless, and for some people that means fiber. I have not seen the most current map, but I do think we're still a few months out from breaking ground, as we sort of figure out all the different placements of things that go on. So getting this franchise agreement done is really the first step in that process, just to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. And again, having a franchise agreement does not negate us working with the community to get permits or whatever else needs to happen. But we've had a lot of success working with the city and everyone with it. This is one of our favorite towns to work in, because it's just so easy. You guys are definitely open for business and want to make sure to do all the things that are going to promote connectivity in your town. So just super appreciated. So when I have better dates, I'll get them to you, and I'm hoping we can share a map soon.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Other questions for the franchise agreement? Oh, these services and access to them, and I think also people having a choice of who their provider are, continue to be pretty headline concerns for people in a community in terms of what type of access they have to what type of services. So we're pleased to see this growth with the services that Visionary is offering. I think that's easy to say at this point. Why don't we see if there's public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Council, one more opportunity. Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think it's also great that we're getting a little more competition here in the internet space in Laramie. But I am a sucker for a Wyoming-grown company. I would appreciate any effort that any company that were to headquarter here in Wyoming would make in investing in our communities and our infrastructure.
Our CEO and his brother are both graduates of UW, and we're all from Wyoming. We went to high school together, so a bunch of Wyoming nerds.
My kind of people.
28 years in business in Wyoming. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. And competition makes everybody work harder. I agree with what you're saying. Is it gets interesting to see a lot of people coming in, but when you have a lot of providers, it means everybody just has to work harder, and that's a better thing for consumers.
Absolutely. Other comments, questions? Like I said, I think we're glad to see this moving forward. All right. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote? Ms. McDonald, thank you for being here. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
That motion carries. All right. Congratulations, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. Council, that takes us to public comments on non-agenda items now. Yes. I'd like to recognize Judy Snoke, the intrepid Judy Snoke. Welcome.
Hi, I really am invisible. Thank you, Mayor Weaver and Council. And that's what I wanted to say. And I hope our residents, people who watch this, appreciate that your humor and smiles and giggles are appropriate when they are appropriate. You do a good job of inflecting some smiles into what would otherwise be very, very boring and dull.
And you would know.
I
You would
would
know.
Yes, I would. Yeah. Okay, that's all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Judy. Councilmember Schuster?
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to Judy again. I waved at her at the Blue Devils drum and bugle thing, but I don't think she saw me. But I'll say hi now because she's also a good friend of my mom. So, hello.
Hello. Good to see you in person almost.
Councilmember O'Doherty.
Since we're talking about smiles and laughter, I thought this might be a good time to point out the reason for the 4 to 7 inch grass at the airport. It's so that hawks are not hunting for ground squirrels near the airport because that's their main predator. So I figured that out after we hung up last week.
We don't want hawks attracted to the airport. That makes sense on a number of levels.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Judy Snoke, thank you for joining us at our meeting and your nice comments for us. We do a lot of serious things here, and as a result, sometimes we need to get a little joke in here and there. Otherwise, it's too much. And it's good to hear that we're not veering towards the inappropriate with it. Although I can't promise that that will be the case at every single meeting. We will try our best. That's going to take us now to item number 19, consideration of future council work session topics, and also the upcoming meetings if there's questions or discussion about that. Council? Does anyone want to propose something for the work session topic schedule? It does remain pretty busy. I know we'll be getting to those items. Councilmember O'Doherty.
I'm going to send a email to our rock star of the month, Eric, and I forgot Eric's last name, about the Zelmer, about the flushables, if he has any ideas. So if he does, I will request a work session to keep those out of our wastewater system.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. Yeah, I mentioned this briefly. This isn't the first that we've heard about this at the council even, and I recall it might have been 2 years ago, but an awful lot of people at home, unfortunately, and frankly, people were having trouble getting their usual products, and we had an issue with the non-flushable wipes, and I think we even did a city alert about that with some pictures that were included about what that what those products do in the system, and it looked like they could jam it up really, really good, which is a big problem. Vice Mayor Pierce?
Yeah,
I
thank you,
guess,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, that was my long-winded way of saying I support Councilmember Authority's suggestion. Sorry, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, this may be a little bit off topic, but, and it's mostly for our city manager and our assistant city manager regarding Freedom Has a Birthday. And I'm wondering if they're going to need some, I wonder if they're still going to have a tent there related to information pertaining to the 5th cent and what's going on, and if they're going to need council support for that, that day in the park. And maybe I missed an email or an announcement, but I'm just kind of curious if we're kind of back in the saddle from previous years and taking shifts at that booth.
Is that something maybe, yeah, City Manager.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Vice Mayor Pierce, that is a great question. And Nancy Oakland Potter and myself have literally, just this last probably week and a half, been refining the material for public education on the 5th cent. As you know, Council, we got a little bit of a late start this year with just a couple of weeks ago approving the ballot language. And as you know, there will be 2 questions on the ballot this year. So we've been reworking our public education materials, working with the county clerk to try to appropriately capture the options that the voters will have in front of them, which used to be 1 option and now they'll have 2. So we're working on that. I honestly had not gotten to the point of requesting a booth or even thinking about a booth, and I know that the Assistant City Manager is not with us still this evening. So that's a good question. I'll follow up and see if Todd is aware of any booth being requested, and if not, maybe we can start to organize something for the 4th of July. And if you are all willing to staff that booth with the materials that we'll have ready for you, that would be fantastic.
Well, I plan on spending a little time there, and certainly we can do some shift rotation, assuming the materials are ready. But I know it's a little bit rushed, but and I don't want to put you on the spot, but just know I'm available. So and there's 8 others of us, so so I think that'd be great.
Yeah, if I could, Mayor, I appreciate that very much, and I think we can absolutely have material ready. It's just a little bit later than usual, and working in that extra question is something that we've been trying to be very sensitive to. So yeah, I think we can have material ready for you, and the question I would have is, would you like us to also invite folks from the county and from the town of Rock River if we do have a booth? Okay,
Yes.
I see a lot of head nodding. Okay. We can coordinate something like that. I will tell you in advance, I will not be here on the 4th. I'll be with my family elsewhere, but we can certainly put in play all of the things that we need to have in play to make that happen.
Great, thanks.
Circle back with us about that and how we can best team up. Other comments on upcoming meetings, and I think that was an upcoming meeting of a sort, Vice Mayor, so why not, right? Yes, Councilmember Schuster.
I will be there all day too for working other booths. So if there's a time slot, I'd be happy to serve with any of you or any of the other county commissioners or Rock River. So please put me down on that list too.
Thank you. Other work session topics or upcoming meeting questions? Seeing none. Let's go to item number 20. I'm going to call on Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. I move we adjourn to executive session regarding litigation, Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405, small letter A, Roman numeral 3, and land negotiations, Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405, small letter A, Roman numeral 7.
Second.
Motion and a second from Councilmember Gabriel. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned to
Mayor,
executive.
what, do we need about 10 minutes?
I think 10 minutes is fine. Yes. Yep. City Clerk's saying 10 minutes is good. Thank you, Councilmember Gabriel. See y'all at about 20 after.